Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub. And you know, one of the cliche jokes about Jews is that we're not great athletes. Of course, we all know there are some notable exceptions to that stereotype. In baseball, superstars, Sandy Koufax, Hank Greenberg, and all-star Al Rosen, and many, many other names of Jewish ball players who fans are well aware of. You know, the Cal Abrams and the Kenny Holtzmans and the Ron Bloombergs of baseball. There's Sid Gluckman in football, Marty Glickman in track and field, boxing champ Max Baer, and Olympic swimming phenom Mark Spitz. And when one thinks of Jews in the game of basketball, there's Hall of Famer Dolph Schayes, and there's another old-timer who may not be a household name in Jewish sports, but who had an illustrious basketball career both in college and in the pros, Jack Laub, who played under the legendary City College coach Nat Holman from 1943 to 1945, then won a basketball scholarship from the University of Cincinnati and went on to play 4 more years of varsity basketball, helping the Bearcats win 4 conference championships and become one of the top teams in the country. By the way, Jack Laub is the only player in college history to play 6 years of varsity basketball. And after Cincinnati, Jack Laub went on to play in the NBA for the Baltimore Bullets, the Minneapolis Lakers, and then became an NBA scout, discovering such basketball stars as Jack Twyman and the incomparable Oscar Robertson. And Jack Laub is not only known as one of the first generation's NBA ball players. Jack, who was born in May of 1926, served in the Merchant Marines in World War II and wound up being awarded the French Legion of Honor. And after the war, Jack became an executive for the pharmaceutical company Pfizer. And Jack Laub was lauded for his work in reducing the cost of prescription drugs. And from City College Hall of Fame to Cincinnati University Hall of Fame to the National Jewish Sports Hall of Fame to the Brooklyn Jewish Hall of Fame to the Jack Laub Scholarship in the field of medicine. Jack Laub has a Hall of Fame lifetime, and it is such a wonderful honor to have you sitting at this table. Thank you for joining us.
Very glad to, Mark. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, I talk about the sweep of your life. You've done some remarkable things, and you've been present at some remarkable moments in history. You understand that?
Yes.
By the way, you should just speak for one moment. Are you proud of the fact, you know, normally when people say, well, he was 6 years in varsity basketball, that meant it took you 6 years to graduate college. Is that a good thing that you're proud of, or is there a problem there?
No, there's no problem, but everybody makes fun of me. They said it took you 6 or 7 years. It might have been 7 years I was in college, but the interruption, the reason that happened really, I intended to become a doctor when I started school. When I left for the war, I was in there 2 years. When I came back, I was older, and I wanted to go to Cincinnati because they had a very good medical school. But the reason I was in there, I wanted to get good grades. And when you play basketball and travel a lot, it's hard to become an A student like I was in high school or at City College. So when you play that long, you start to lose your academic standing. So I was a good student all the time. But that's why I stayed in school long. And when the end of the 6th year, I was waiting to get into medical school, and that's when I got it. When I got drafted in the NBA, so I had 2 different courses of life to decide which I was going to do.
Yes.
At that time, I met my fiance, or my first wife to be, named Joan Slater, and I met her in the Catskill Mountains, where all the basketball players played for years to keep in condition. And I met her there. It became really confusing. She didn't want me to play basketball, and she wanted to get married.
Yes.
So she said, "You got to give this up." And I said, "Well, I got to give me a year to decide." And I went to Minneapolis Lakers, and I was waiting to get into medical school. And then the coach called me from Minneapolis, from Cincinnati, and he asked me to come to first assistant in the school's history. Assistant coach at Cincinnati University was a big thing. And he paid me double the salary that the Lakers would give me. Because the rookies weren't making a lot of money then.
Right.
The salary was $4,500. But it was different dollars,
Yes,
of course.
But it still was not a lot of money.
It wasn't a lot of money, but no, 60 games. It wasn't 82 games. But then there's a lot of traveling. So I was confused. I had a lot of decisions to make. So I went back to coach at Cincinnati.
And that's how your NBA career came to an end.
That's right. But then I played in the Eastern League after that.
Yes.
What happened is
you did very well in the Eastern League.
Yes, I played on 2 championship teams under a famous coach from Yeshiva University called Red Sarachek.
Absolutely.
Red Sarachek was one of the greatest basketball minds that I ever knew.
Yes.
Wonderful man.
By the way, you played under 2 incredible coaches, Nat Holman
and Red
Sarachek.
Right.
Yes?
Yes. They're
Yes.
both incredible coaches.
Yes. So who the heck are you? Where were you born?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and lived in the Brighton Beach, Coney Island area.
Where? What was do you remember the street?
Yeah, Brighton 2nd Street. Brighton Beach
Brighton
2nd.
okay.
Brighton 2nd. My mother had a restaurant there.
What kind of restaurant?
Dairy, vegetarian restaurant like Ratner's in the East Side.
Very nice. What was your mother's name?
Pauline.
Pauline. What was your father's name?
Harry.
What did he do?
Well, Harry worked in the restaurant with my mother. They both ran the restaurant. We had several restaurants during my, growing up as a youngster.
Where were your parents from?
I would say that they always tell me Austria, but I think it was Austria, Poland, because there was different takeovers in those days. In the 1880s, they were born in 1888 and 1889, so I'm always confused.
Okay.
But I would say Zabeltova was in Poland, I think, and Roznov. I think they're both Polish.
Now, did you have any siblings?
I have 5 brothers. There's 6 boys.
All boys?
All boys.
And you were where in the 6?
I was number 5.
You were number 5. Did you get along with your brothers?
Beautifully. I had the greatest brothers in the world.
That's lovely.
I mean, really the greatest. I mean, they took me where I am today.
And what was the Jewish character of your home growing up?
Well, my father and mother were Orthodox Jews, so we went to the Orthodox temples all the time.
Mm-hmm. Shabbat in your home on Friday night?
Yeah.
Did you have a bar mitzvah ceremony?
I did. Not all my brothers did, but
you
I
did.
I did. I was definitely more studious in Hebrew than they were. But a couple of them had it. I think I was maybe the second or third that had it. I think maybe the third.
Okay.
Maybe.
And you went to Lincoln High School?
Lincoln High School.
Okay, and from there to City College?
From there to City College.
Okay. And did you always know, I mean, you're tall, did you always love basketball?
Always.
Where did you play before college? Where would I have seen you play?
In high school?
Yeah, you played at Lincoln High.
Yeah, you mean where else would you see me play?
Yeah, would I see you on the playground?
Oh, the playgrounds. I played in all the playgrounds. I played mainly in Brighton Beach, Bath. They had Brighton Beach, Bath, but had a basketball court and a swimming pool, and it was quite a big place in Brighton Beach.
Okay.
And I used to go to Brighton Beach, Bath, but then there was playgrounds on Brighton 6th Street or 7th Street, and they were all over.
Jack, as you look back in your life as a kid, was it a good life? Was it a hard life? What was it?
I thought it was a great life because I had my mother and father at the restaurant, my brothers. We all grew up and they were all good athletes. some better than the others, but we were all good athletes. And we'd always go to playgrounds. In fact, sometimes we had our own team in the playground, 5 of us.
Oh, what fun.
That was fun.
What fun.
Yeah, it was great life. I mean, I just had a great family.
Okay. Now you're at City College, you're playing basketball, and you know, if you mention college basketball and City College, what comes to mind immediately is the fact that after these fabulous teams, the team was racked with scandal, a betting scandal, where players were bribed to shave points.
Right.
Now you had already left City College.
I left City College in '46 when they came back from the service. So I wasn't there when the scandal happened in '50.
Now, okay. And yet, ironically, you become involved in some way. Talk about the story about how, even though you're not at City College, you were bribed also, correct? They tried to bribe you.
They tried to bribe me.
When you were at Cincinnati.
When I was at Cincinnati.
And what happened?
Well,
Somebody knocked on the door or what?
No, it happened. The promoter of the Cincinnati basketball program was an outsider. He wasn't attached to the university. He was a private promoter that got permission to promote Cincinnati, because we never heard of Cincinnati basketball in the Midwest or in the East. So he came out there and he rented a music hall, Cincinnati Music Hall, which was a stage, and you play on a stage. They set up a basketball court on stage so people would sit in the audience on either side and watch the game. So the promoter one day came to the locker room after practice, and I was sitting with my teammate, Ali Rubenstein, and he came over to me and he said, you know, I'd like you guys to shave the points in the game. He said, I thought, you kidding? Are you crazy or something? He said, well, I know other teams are doing it. I said, what do you mean other teams? I never heard of it. He said, Kentucky, the best team in the country, is shaving points. Little did I know that he was going to turn out to be right. I said, we're not interested. He said, well, we'll give you a new Cadillac each. Now, that's a lot of...
So new Cadillac?
Yeah, each one of us to get a new Cadillac.
This is 1950-ish.
This is 1950.
Yes.
So a new Cadillac is... I said, I don't have a driver's license. No, I'm just... I never drove a car.
Is that true?
That's true. I never had a driver's license then. And I was 19. I was 24 years old. I never drove a car. I never had a car.
You could have gotten a license if
I'm just kidding. But I mean, I thought he was really desperate, and I didn't believe him. I didn't believe him, and I didn't say anything to the coach because you never. I thought he was, you know, off the wall. It was Meshuggah or something. I didn't believe him at all. I didn't think that this guy was really either desperate or what. But we turned him down, and it turned out later 15 college teams, City College, Bradley, and LIU that were brought in for investigation, and D.A. Hogan in New York indicted them, and they called Ali Rubenstein and myself in to ask us if we were ever attempted to bribe.
Who brought you in?
D.A. Hogan. District Attorney Hogan, yeah. Brought us into the office downtown, questioned us for hours. I said, no, we never threw a game or shaved points, but we ever attempted to bribe you. And I said, yeah.
By the way, when you find out that City College stars, some of them you knew.
I knew very well.
Had shaved points and had taken money. What did you think? How did you feel?
I was shocked, because they were great friends of mine. I was shocked, you know, that they would do it. And I was shocked that when I found out later on, they did it for $200 or $100 a game. It's ridiculous. I mean, to do that to the school. And it devastated the CCNY program forever. That's why they had to drop basketball for a while. They came back, but they're not in the top tier. They're like a Division III school now. They play basketball now, but you don't hear about it. They're not the same as when Nat Holman was there with those great teams.
Mm-hmm. As you look back, and you have some real perspective here at how the game of basketball has evolved, and you're now watching some incredible professional basketball with, you know, you saw Michael Jordan and LeBron James and Steph Curry. And when you think to yourself, you grew up playing ball on the streets of New York and
Right.
Brooklyn, and you see basketball today, what do you say about the evolution of the game?
Well, I think the athleticism is much greater than when we played. The athleticism, the jumping ability. But see, when we played, the game has changed. You couldn't dunk a basketball. Now, our coach wouldn't let us dunk it. We had players on our team could dunk the basketball.
It was not allowed.
They were not allowed. So the game changed. Because I had some great athletes in my school team that could dunk the ball easily. And the coach would say, we don't want you to do that. No showboating, and he hated that when you try to do it. But the other aspects of the game that I see as a coach and player are tremendous. And they're little things that can make a big difference in any game, even in tonight's game, which I'll be watching. The thing that changes a lot is possession of the ball and jump balls. That's a big thing. Now, the other night, it happened, where if a ball is a held ball and they got a possession arrow, they give it to one team. The next held ball is given to the other team. That is a crucial part of coaching in basketball, what position to be in to try to get that jump ball. And sometimes that jump ball, if it's a tie game, and a team that gets possession and get that ball and score, that could be the whole game. Mm-hmm. One play can make a difference. Mm-hmm. The other big difference is when we played, it was only a 2-point shot. Well, no matter what you do. Now they got 18 foot or over is a 3-point shot. I think we used to shoot from more than 18 foot out and only get 2 points. So that's another big difference. Mm-hmm. The jump ball and that. Also, the clock. When we played college basketball, there was no clock, so if you wanted to freeze the ball on your opponent, make it come out, and then get an easy play going into the paint, you could do it. Now you 24-second rule.
30 in basketball.
30
in college.
Yeah, in college.
Yeah.
But in the pros, it's different.
Do you like the way the game has evolved? Do you enjoy watching it?
I enjoy watching it. I enjoy watching a good defensive game and more of a defensive game where they stop the fast break and a transition game, and a rebounding. I like the rebounding is the same. The team that gets the rebounds, the offense and defensively, usually will win the game.
Okay. I know, by the way, this conversation will only be interested in people who follow basketball. But
Right.
so one more question. The physicality of the game. What is allowed, what players are allowed to do to each other on the court. Has that changed from the days you played?
I don't to me, I remember playing in the Eastern League and physicality was still the same there to me. I mean, I look at it, I know that, there's pushing and shoving and all that, but they're jumping better, but I don't think that they're more physical in the days that...
Interesting.
I don't think so. I mean, that's my guess. I don't think it's...
And what about traveling? You're only allowed to take a certain number of steps if you're not dribbling the ball. It was supposed to be 2. Do you feel that professional basketball players often take more than 2 shots?
Definitely, definitely. I think they do. I think they also carry the ball more than they carry the ball when they're dribbling. They're terrific at it. They just flip the hand over and they're able to change direction. That's changed a lot. That couldn't happen when we played. They call that on you. Carrying the ball was a big thing.
All right.
I think it's different.
I enjoy talking basketball to you, but there's so much more to you. You end up in the Merchant Marine. How old are you?
I was 18 when I enlisted.
When you enlisted?
I enlisted when I was 18.
Why'd you enlist?
Well, I'll be honest, the reason I enlisted is I had 3 brothers that were drafted into the Army, and they were all overseas. And my parents were upset. So I figured, I don't want to go to the Army. There's 3 of them. There's enough. I'm going to choose a service that I want to go to. And the U.S. Maritime Service had a station in Brooklyn, New York. And I figured at least if I enlist there, I'll be home for 6 months maybe before I ship out. As it is, Sid Luckman was a friend of one of my families, and he got me to enlist in the Maritime Service in Brooklyn.
How interesting.
Yeah. Sid Luckman, a great football player, and I became very friendly with him. He was the greatest football player in the Jewish history. And anyway, he was one of the greatest quarterbacks in the NFL, I think, ever.
Absolutely.
And, well, he got me into the Merchant Marine.
And what did you do in the Merchant Marine?
Well, at first, when I enlisted, I was a seaman, but I immediately applied for Officer Candidate School, and I got accepted. So I became a 90-day wonder.
Mm-hmm.
I became an ensign in 90 days, and then I shipped out eventually.
And where did you go to?
Oh, everywhere. I went to Italy, France, England, Venezuela, Germany,
And-
all over. I was 6 trips overseas, back and
Really?
forth. Yeah, 6 trips.
And what does somebody in the Merchant Marine do?
Well,
You're not in combat.
well, no, you're taking cargo over for the soldiers. You're taking oil overseas. We go to Venezuela. We pick up cargo oil and take it over on a tanker. Different things.
At the time, did you understand that Nazi Germany was trying to exterminate the Jewish people?
At that time, I don't think I knew at that time. No, when I was a boy.
Isn't that interesting as you look
yeah,
back?
I look back. I think I didn't know until the end of the war that I knew that.
When the concentration camps were
Yeah.
revealed.
And well, the interesting part of it, my oldest brother was a soldier, and he was stationed in Germany. He was in Europe most of the time, but when the war ended, they made him a lieutenant, first lieutenant, and they put him into Wiesbaden to try the Nazi Germany. He was a lawyer. He was a lawyer at the age of 21 or 22. So when the war ended, he was in Wiesbaden for a while, trying the Nazi criminals.
Very interesting.
Very into my oldest brother, High.
By any chance, do you remember when you first hear of the Nazi atrocities against the Jews? Do you remember at all hearing that and how you reacted?
Well, I reacted very badly because my grandparents were over there, and I never met my grandparents ever. All I knew is their names. I never knew anything about my grandmother, grandfather, and I know my grandmother and aunt were there, and I never heard from them. I don't know what happened, but I found out later on. I thought they were in a Holocaust, but they weren't. They were turned over by some Polish family to the Nazis, and they were killed.
I'm sorry.
But I found out years later that one of the relatives was in the Russian army, came back to Poland, and he found out from these Polish people who did it. And he took them out to the countryside and machine gunned them. That's
Really?
the story I heard from a cousin of mine. It's all, later on in life.
Where were you when Hiroshima happened? Today it's such a
I know,
controversial issue. It was not controversial for Americans in 1945 because it meant the war was going to come to an end.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who had family members and they themselves were on ships about to invade the Japanese mainland, and there were going to be horrific casualties. Today there's a lot of question as to whether whether America had to drop the bomb, could have dropped the bomb on a deserted island and just shown Japan what the power of it was. And so, you lived through this period. What do you say to people who say, America never should have dropped the atomic bomb?
Well, I think that when you're in wartime and you think of your country, you think of the United States of America first. It was a tough decision by Truman to throw that bomb, but he had to do it because you got to think of it the other way. They attacked the United States in Pearl Harbor, and I'll never forget that day, December 7th.
You won't forget
I
that.
will never forget that day, but that happened. That was a big thing when I was in high school. And I remember that day very well. I was in a school play on a Sunday, and the announcement came over, and she says, wow, it was scary, And so I'm thinking, if you look at the two comparable things, we were invaded here in Pearl Harbor, and the war was going on. You had to do something to end that war. Was it in August of 19?
45.
Yeah. Well, that's when it happened.
Yes.
And I was in Mobile, Alabama.
Yes.
Just docked the ship. I remember that. And they said you can go home now if you want to or something. But I stayed in till October 1946, the service.
And what about Israel? What was your feeling about Israel as a kid? And I mean by Israel, obviously it was Palestine about to become a Jewish state. You were born in 26, correct?
Right.
So you're roughly 22 years old when the state of Israel is established.
Right.
Where were you then?
I was in Cincinnati.
Okay. Do you remember that at all? Or was
definitely.
you did?
Yeah, I did remember that because
Describe it to me.
I used to come home all the time and my father was ecstatic. That's what I remember. He was so ecstatic. He says, well, we got a state of Israel, and my mother and father was so happy. So I was home, I was taken home 3 times a year from Cincinnati, fly in for time. Whenever I had time out in school, Christmas, I'd come home for 2 weeks and stuff like that. And they were talking about it, and I was happy too to hear that we had a state of Israel.
Have you visited Israel?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes, meaning more than once?
Twice.
Twice.
Yes, twice I was in Israel. Loved it. Took my wife there, and we just went through the countryside, all over there. We took tours and everything. And my daughters were on this program to go to Israel. My 2 teenage daughters are 18, something like that. And they're working on kibbutzes. They both went to kibbutzes. And we were staying in nice hotels and traveling to Haifa and Jerusalem and everything. And a funny story I remember right now, you said what I remember, is my daughter Gerald was in a kibbutz in Jerusalem. And we arrived, we were in Tel Aviv. And my other daughter was in Tel Aviv, so we were having dinner. And we called her, and she says, oh, you're all in there. I'm coming down. And it was late at night. She says, how are you getting here? She said, I'll take a cab. Like it was like around the corner. She was going to come from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv to see us. She said, I'll just jump a cab. I thought it was very funny. I'll never forget that. But we loved Israel. We went to Yad Vashem, and it was a very impressive thing.
And how do you feel about Israel today?
Well, I feel great about it. I helped Nat Holman raise money for the 6-Day War. Nat Holman came to me. He was very instrumental in raising a lot of money, and he called me one day during the 6-Day War, and he asked me if I could help him. And I said, sure.
Where were you in life then?
Oh, I was in Long Island then in the pharmaceutical business. So I had a lot of contacts among pharmaceutical companies, and I approached them, and I raised about $70,000.
Wow, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of connections with drug companies, and they were all pro-Israel, so they gave me money, and I turned it over to Nat Holman. He had an office near the UN.
Are you upset by the way Israel is regarded and treated today?
Well, I've been upset about the whole way that the Obama administration handled it, definitely with the way they dissed Netanyahu, and disrespectful to him, definitely. But I think now we're going to see a change in administration. I hope. I hope we're going to see a change here toward Israel. And I think that we have seen it through the new UN ambassador at Israel that we have in the United States.
Yes.
Nikki Haley.
Right.
I think that she's going to be tremendous.
Yes.
I've read what she says, and I think she's going to be instrumental in helping Israel. That's what I think.
We certainly hope so, right?
I hope so.
Absolutely. Okay, as much fun as you had playing basketball, and how that really, it seems to me, had a tremendous imprint upon who you are and who your self-identity is. You didn't play basketball your whole life. The reality is you become an executive at Pfizer, which is...
not at Pfizer.
Where?
I went into the pharmaceutical business of being a consultant to companies, mail order companies, Health Insurance Plan of New York. I was a consultant for them to get prescription drugs for all the city workers. I was the first one to open a mail order for the HIP in New York. That was very successful. I worked for mail order firms like Wolin's Pharmaca, which is a mail order, very big. I was vice president. I bought generic drugs to sell to the doctors, retailers, hospitals, and consumers. So I've always been in that phase. Pfizer was a brand name company. I then went into the generic side of it, where the drugs are off patent, and they save the consumers a lot of money. Mm-hmm. That was the big thing I did in pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm.
As you look at the healthcare issue today, and you look at the extent to which the price of prescription drugs is one of the most serious elements yet to be effectively addressed in healthcare in America, given your background, what do you think? And to what extent are you disappointed in government as a whole? Doesn't matter whether it's Obama or Trump. To what extent are you, disappointed in the way we as a country have dealt with the cost of prescription drugs?
Well, I have the answer to it right now.
What's the answer?
The answer is that prescription drugs are much higher, not due to the drug companies so much, the manufacturers, but through the new system we call pharmacy benefit management companies. These companies are making all the money, and they're withholding it for themselves and not giving it out to the consumers. The answer is we've got to eliminate the pharmacy. It's a very tough subject, Mark. I tell you why. They started about 15, 20 years ago. What they've done is by computers, they've established a price that's higher than the price of a pharmacy that used to have. If a price a pharmacy had was 40, they make it 45. Well, that's an extra. And then they negotiate the prices from the manufacturers, but they don't pass it to the consumers like I did. They take it and put it in their pockets. So I would like to go to Washington and tell them how to do it. I think I could do it. But it'll have to be we have to break down the PBM system in the United States of America. That's number one.
PBM?
Yeah, that's Pharmacy Benefit Management. There are articles written on the internet in the last month. If you look up...
PBM is not something that most Americans know about.
They don't know. No, the layman doesn't know. The Americans don't know. That's the problem. They don't know, and if they knew, they couldn't do anything about it. For instance, I'll give you an example. If a chain like Walgreens or CVS, they have pharmacy benefit management. So they negotiate the prices. And then they take the prices and they tell the pharmacies all over the country what you could charge for a drug. Meanwhile, they've gotten the drug at a cheaper price, and they just give it to their chains to dispense and get the higher market price. So that's where there's a big span.
Okay, by the way, we're not against profit as a concept.
No, I'm not against that. But
are you saying, however, that chains are gouging Americans in terms
well, if they have PBMs, they're getting extra prices under the table, so to speak, so they're making extra profits. They don't need that. All the other independent pharmacies have been pushed out by PBMs and chains. So the independent pharmacies were better off because they used to charge a normal price, a normal markup to stay in business and make a profit.
Jack,
it's a very complex, it's not that easy.
Yes, but why don't we, as a public, know about this? I'm hearing this for the first time from you.
Right. Why? Because it was something that was put up by these top companies that figured there's a good way to make money making money by computerization of dictating the prices that used to be formerly done another way. The pharmacy had a red book, blue book that they charge you a normal price, and if they wanted to discount it, everybody could compete. The way they've done it is they've established computerization in their companies. And then now the chains have bought these PBMs. They didn't have it at the beginning. They saw where all the money is. So chains like CVS and Walgreens have bought these. And other chains, they have their own PBMs.
Can it ever be corrected?
It's not going to be easy because you're going to have to eliminate PBMs, but it should be done. Because that's where all the money is in the high prices of drugs.
And when you listen to discussions about health care, Obamacare Light, Trump Care. Do you say to yourself, it's all nonsense because they're not dealing with the issue of drug prices as they should be?
Well, I don't think that that's part of the drug prices and the Obamacare situation are two different things. I think that the prescription care is not the thing. That's an extra bill. They put the PBMs into business, but the Obamacare is different. I mean, what I hear about it is just that the premiums are so high that people can't afford it. I think that what I've read is that they have competition where insurance companies could cross state lines. That would be one of the solutions. But I'm not an expert in Obamacare. That I don't want. I think I know more about prescription drugs than the healthcare problem. The healthcare problem is simple. They just got to get the insurance companies to compete with each other and give us better premiums. I guess that's the best way.
If we could have competition across state lines, do you think it would have any impact on cost?
I think it would, yes.
Because?
The same way in the prescription drugs, if you have competition there, they were able to have competition without the PBMs dictating the prices, you would have a better result, I think.
Okay, as we're sitting here, you're 90 years old?
I'm 90, I'm going to be 91 in May.
You were born May 9, I'm born on May 10th.
Wow.
You're just a little older than I am. When you talk to someone who's 90 years old, first of all, how's your health?
My health is very good. I'd say it's excellent.
Okay. And people say, oh, what's your secret? There's no secret, is there? You just got good genes and you're lucky?
I think I have good genes because my brother Dave, who's a great basketball player, played at City College with Red Holzman. He's 95. And he's
Going strong?
Going strong. He's 95, and I'm going to be 91. My mother lived to 97.
Mazel tov.
And she had all the marbles.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You've also known sadness in your life.
Oh, yes.
You've lost 2 wives.
Right.
The first one was Joan.
Joan.
Second was named?
Lola. I also lost a daughter.
I know the wives you lost were to cancer.
Right.
And your daughter, how?
She had an unknown blood ailment.
How old was she?
She was 48.
That must have been horrific.
That's the hardest thing.
I understand. What was she like?
Tremendous girl. Such a sweetheart. Wonderful mother.
Children? How many?
She had 2 daughters.
2 daughters.
They're my granddaughters now.
How old are they now, roughly?
My oldest granddaughter is 34, and the other one is 30. And my oldest granddaughter has 2 great granddaughters I have now. And my younger granddaughter is getting married June 4th, so I'll be coming back here.
That's wonderful.
She's getting married, and she's a brilliant girl. Went to Harvard University, and she's going to be working at Montefiore Hospital in psychiatric research.
Fabulous.
She had a 5-year scholarship to Drexel to become a clinical psychologist. They even gave her a $100,000 fee to stay there for over 5 years.
She's
a brilliant girl.
Oh, very nice.
And Ariel became a lawyer, and she's working in White Plains. She's working for the IRS in White Plains, and she's in a nice position. Right now, she's on maternity leave. I have 2 great-granddaughters there, and my other granddaughter is in Memphis. She had a great-grandson about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, this is
So
awesome.
it all happened in this, I have great things happening to me.
Great things happening.
Great thing. I have 3 great-granddaughters, or great-grandchildren. So I'm very happy.
Okay. The daughter who died,
Yeah.
who was the mother?
Joan. I'm
Joan.
just a little.
It's okay.
Joan,
Okay.
yeah. I was married to her for 38 years. So
38 years. And she died of breast cancer.
Yeah.
That must have been hard too.
It was very hard.
But it's not the same as losing a child.
No,
How did the
not
two,
the same,
okay?
but it's hard.
How did the 2 of you deal with losing a child?
Well, my first wife died 2 years before my daughter.
Oh, you had a hard stretch there, didn't you?
But I had it, yeah.
You had a hard stretch.
Yeah, but I had this stretch where my wife was dying and then my daughter.
I'm still asking the same question.
I know.
How does a person deal? You know, the Jewish tradition says there's no pain worse than losing a child. It's not the way of the world. Every child is to lay a parent to rest. It's never to be the other way around.
Right.
And yet I know that, you know, look, in some way people deal with it. I want to know how you dealt with it.
Well, it's the hardest thing in my life. I dealt with it because I knew that I had a family. My daughter, Debbie, and all my grandchildren. And I knew that I wanted to be around. Yeah. Besides, I got two fabulous son-in-laws. They're greatest. They supported me. And my son-in-law, Michael, the one who lost Gerald, his wife, he's been unbelievable. He takes care of everybody in the family. I mean, his family. The girls, both his daughters, and his grandchildren now. He's over there every week. He's a dentist, and he's over there every week taking care of the babies. He's just terrific. So
Marvelous.
I'm lucky.
Jack, were you ever angry?
If angry at my
Were you
children.
ever angry in terms of losing your wives and your daughter? Did it ever make you angry or bitter?
Well, I'd always raise the question, why did it happen to me? Yeah, I was a little angry, but who's I going to be angry against?
Yes.
Who's I going to be
Angry
angry
at what?
At what?
Right.
I mean, all I was depressed for a while, and I said I had to come out of it and live on for my family and make the best of my life and try to just do things for them. And I've done them.
That's marvelous.
That's what I've done.
Good for you.
Yeah. I feel good about it because I know that they're going to be taken care of.
Yes,
Well,
I understand.
all of them are fine.
I understand. Good
Yeah,
for you.
Yeah.
That must give you a real sense of comfort.
It does, it does. And I'm in for the Seder's now this next week. So I'll be here for 10 days.
Yes, we're taping this just before Passover,
Yeah,
Pesach. Who'll be at your family Seder? How many people?
at least 12.
At least
Sometimes
12.
we have more. We use 12, we have 15 sometimes, but my granddaughter's in Memphis, just had a baby, she can't travel, right now. But there'll be 12 or 14. Maybe sometimes we have up to 18 or 20
Okay.
on the Seders. We have a Seder at each house. In other words, Michael, my son-in-law, makes a Seder, and my daughter, Debbie, makes it. So we alternate who gets the first one.
Do you love Passover?
I love it, yeah, I do love it. It's a good holiday.
Isn't it wonderful when family gets together?
Yes, it's great.
It's all about family, isn't it?
Yeah, I never missed a Passover with my family yet, ever.
Ever.
I live in Florida. I never missed one yet.
Mm-hmm.
I come in all the time.
Both of your wives died from breast cancer.
Right.
What's your attitude about when you were in the field of drugs and medicines? When you look at where we are, and there have been major strides made
Definitely.
in combating cancer, and even in breast cancer, there's some fabulous work being done. But as you look at it, are there things that still bother you about the way our country deals with the problem of cancer as a whole?
No, I think they're doing a great job, really. I really do think that the discoveries, and I watch it all the time, every day I watch it all my life. Even before my wife's had breast cancer, I had pharmacies, I had mail order pharmacies. I had own retail pharmacies too at one stage. And I'm not a pharmacist, I was a pharmacist mate in World War II, but I think they've done wonders, the drug companies. All big drug companies have done as much as they can. But right now, my biggest thing is I have a breast cancer study going on at Florida Atlantic University.
You do?
Yes.
In your foundation, right?
My foundation,
yes.
yeah. I have a study going on, and one of the researchers has found a substance called chitin in water and sea fish. And she is working on that, and has gotten some very good results that have been studies published already. She had 2 or 3 studies published, and we hope that this thing will arrest the growth of breast cancer cells. And I'm very highly positive that it will.
You're optimistic.
I'm very optimistic about it, very optimistic, and the study is named after my Jack Laub cancer study, and it's FAU, and I just hope that we discover something, and I have the utmost faith that we're going to get more and more discoveries along the line
That's
of cancer.
wonderful, Jack.
I really do.
That's wonderful. You know, again, if you've seen the arc of medicine, it has made incredible strides. So again, in that vein, from 1926 to 2017, as we sit at this table today,
Right.
I just, you know, as you look at the sweep of history that you have witnessed, what changes you have witnessed in your own lifetime? But I wonder if there are, what were the moments? You know, you've already mentioned Pearl Harbor.
Right.
And you mentioned the Six-Day War when that Holman came to you and you helped raise money. Just speak for one moment, whatever comes to your mind in terms of the people that you felt were amazing in the course of American history, or any moments in your life which you believe will be, I'm not talking about personal life, in terms of the American experience that you feel are just seminal in terms of the way America has evolved and, you know, what you've seen, how we've grown in these 90 years. What comes to your mind?
What comes to my mind is that I've seen a big difference to me in all of the country, especially since World War II ended. I see a change in the country which is quite different when I was 24 or something, when 24 years old, how the country used to be so great when everybody came back from the war, and to see what it is today with all the divisiveness that's going on. To me, it's sad.
Yes.
And all the things that are going on in different cities, with crime, with even divisiveness in the election. It bothers me to see that whenever we elect a president, people came together. I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, but that's the way it was. You lost, like a ball game. You lost the election, give the other person help. Don't try to undermine anybody. We're all together in this together. We're one country, unified. One country for everybody. And I don't see that anymore. I don't feel it in everything that's going on. And it's just a different way of life now today, I feel. I don't
and what's the cause of it, Jack?
I wish I could give you one cause of it, but I think there's a lot of things here that's going on. Well, I mean, you go on, the racial divide is really still there after all these years, that we don't recognize black people in different minority cities, just they're not being treated right. I mean, but there's also violence going on against the police, which I don't agree. It's terrible. I mean, I don't see anybody. The police are here to protect everybody in every city. My brother was a detective. He was a cop in New York City. My brother, Lenny, and he was a great cop. And I used to go to the precincts with him. You don't see that anymore now. The cops, they treat like they're not human people. They all think they're enemies, and the cops aren't. They're enemies, and I don't see that. I just don't think, I think that they should be more respectful of police forces in every city, and the police should try to help. I think they do try to help. I think something has to be done in all minority cities about, employment and all that. They have to get everything. We didn't have that 50 years ago. Never had this story about unemployment with different minority groups. It's just the whole disintegration of it.
So if your great-grandchildren were sitting at this table now with your grandchildren and your children, and they said to you, what's the lesson that you hope we learn about what life is all about? Given the extraordinary experiences you've had, what word of wisdom or advice or comfort would you offer? And I use your children and grandchildren and great-children, but really I'm asking you to just speak to, you're being seen right now all over America. What's your hope and your wish and that you would want to share with us, the perspective you would hope all of us have as we move through this complexity of life?
I think the biggest thing is to try to have a situation where you're always trying to be considerate of other people, trying to be helpful to them, no matter what race or ethnic group they belong to. I think that you have to be helpful to people. I always try to help people along the way, no matter where, whether they're staff people at my country club where I belong. I always think of them as being human beings, having a life and a family, and I'm always interested in helping them. And people should always be considerate of each other and try to be nice to each other, cordial, friendly, like we used to be in 1940s. That would be the best way to do it. And have a positive attitude and go out there and be optimistic about life and just be persevering, have a goal and try to stick with it, be motivated, focused, and I think you could do well in anything you want to do.
It's been wonderful getting to know you. You're an extraordinary human being. You bring a wealth of both experience and perspective, and you've had hard moments. And I'm really sorry for your daughter, and I'm sorry for your wives. But you've been a real inspiration to all the people you've worked with and to your extraordinary family. It's been an honor to have you at this table. I hope I can call upon you again. Kol tuva hatzlacha, only the best to you, Jack.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank
You
you.
can call me anytime. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. The thoughts of Jack Laub. On the one hand, a Jewish basketball legend of sorts, a man who's made a profound contribution to medicine in this country and whose continuing work through the Jack Laub Scholarship and his foundation is just fabulous. I hope you've enjoyed meeting him here on L'Chaim. As always, I invite you to be in touch with me with any thoughts or comments you may have to any of the things that Jack and I have discussed on this edition of L'Chaim. Please email me, write me, post on our Facebook wall, or tweet me. I look forward to hearing from many of you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. L'Chaim, my friends, to life.
L'Chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.